my role as a stylist is to really take everything and how you want to show up personally and be able to materialize that in clothes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Seven Figure Educator podcast. My name is Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas, and I am so excited today because we're going to be discussing something that often goes untalked about in the professional world. And it's really fun, so we need to be talking more about it, and that is dressing for seven figures. To help us dissect how your wardrobe can be an asset to you as you grow your business and your wealth, I have my girl, Germanee G, here with us. Germanee is a successful stylist and entrepreneur, to say the least. I cannot wait to break down with her how you can take your wardrobe to the next level. And what is an actual stylist? How do they work with you? What do they do? We're going to demystify this entire stylist thing. And more importantly, I can't wait to discuss the impact of dressing for your next level and dressing for the elevation to come. Germanee's career as a stylist ranges from prepping celebrities to the red carpet to working with high-level corporate leaders and entrepreneurs to create their own look. Her business is breaking the modern fashion mold and showing women how to dress based upon who they are and how they feel about themselves. Germanee's social media is filled with styled looks that many of us couldn't dream up of our own, so I cannot wait to dive into this topic with her. Today, we're going to focus on the power of dressing for seven figures, and as you know from watching my other episodes, this will be for you, my friend. So to start things off, let's welcome Germanee G. All right, so we're here with my girl, Germanee G, who is also my stylist, which means she's good, y'all, because you know I won't co-sign nobody who ain't good. So I'm super excited to dive into a really thoughtful conversation around personal styling. And I couldn't think of anyone better to have this conversation with than Germanee G. So I'm super excited about it. So let's first start with just your story as a stylist. So if you could just kind of give us a little bit of a movie trailer of kind of your history and styling, some of the pit stops you made along the way, so that way folks know your story.
Yeah, of course. So again, I'm Germanee G. I had no intentions of being a stylist at all. Let's just be very clear here. This was all orchestrated by God's divine plan. But I was in San Francisco working at Gap Corporate at the time and ended up helping my roommate with a outfit because she was going to a conference. She was working at Apple at the time. She went to that conference. All of her friends were complimenting her outfit. She, of course, said it was me. And they were like, well, how can we get her to help us too? And so I had no idea about styling at that moment. I mean, of course, I've heard about stylists, but in that time I was like, what can I do to tell people about style and their body types, but more specifically have fun with it? And so I started an event called Sip and Style. And I would host 3 to 5 women in our house every month, talk to them about style and help them understand their body types and what works for them, what doesn't work for them. And then from the cohorts, then everybody wanted to work together one-on-one. And so that's kind of how I splintered into moonlighting as a personal stylist. And that opportunity doing Sip and Styles actually afforded me the opportunity to meet Bozoma St. John, because I started working with one of her mentees who then said, I think you would be great for Bozoma. And tell people who Bozoma St. John is in case they may not know. Yes. So Bozoma St. John is a marketing maven. At the time, she was at Beats and Apple as the CMO of Beats by Dre, who had just been acquired by Apple. And then from there, she went to Uber and to Netflix. And so she is just one of the biggest marketing stars or like marketing corporate execs ever. She's actually in the Marketing Hall of Fame. But anyway, so after working with her, and I still work with her, it kind of became a crossroads in my professional career as a merchandiser at Gap, where, you know, do I want to continue to curate clothes for people inside the office, or do I want to do it one-on-one and personally with people? And have deeper connections and do that. And so I decided, okay, maybe I should see what personal styling is about. My parents were so against it. And so I worked as a personal stylist and in corporate for about 2 years. And I don't know how I did it, but my mom finally was like, you're too tired to be doing both. What are you going to do? I decided personal styling. And I quit my job with one client, which was Bozema St. John, and she was living in Los Angeles. I moved to LA with basically $1 and a dream. And from there, I worked with Felicia Butterfield Jones, who had just moved to Los Angeles. And then Latasha Gillespie, who is the head of diversity at Amazon Studios. And the list has gone on and on and on. So at first it was executives and then entrepreneurs like yourself. And then now we also style a few celebrities as well.
I'm jumping in real quick to make sure that you know about my scorecard, which is the opportunity for you to get clear on what stage of business you're in. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I want you to go back and check out the episode that I have around the 3 stages of business. And I developed this scorecard so that way you can get quick clarity around A, what stage you are in business, and B, the specific action steps given that stage so that way you can execute immediately. So go ahead, scroll down to the show notes, and I want you to click the link for the Get Launched Consulting Scorecard. Take that quiz so that way you have clarity on your stage of business. Let's hop back into the episode. So I think this is so fascinating because, I mean, this is a conversation around like personal styling and like the impact that that has as an entrepreneur, but you can also speak to the entrepreneurial journey too.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's fascinating to hear, okay, I had a hope and a dream and picked up and moved to LA, which I feel like in every single entrepreneur's journey, there is that moment where you got to leap.
Yeah.
Like you just have to leap. And like at that time, like how did you know that like that was the right, like did you know that that was like the right thing to do?
You never know. I feel like as with parenthood, I'm not a parent, but they say like there's never going to be a right time to make the leap. You just have to bet on you. You just have to know that this is something in your gut that you know is going to work. You don't know how it's going to work, but you're going to take the leap. And so I took the leap. I had no clue that it was going to work out. And I said, hey, I worked at Gap. I can work anywhere in retail if this doesn't work out. And so I bet on myself and I'm still here, pandemic and all.
So how would you describe the role as a stylist? Because I think a stylist is one of those roles where I think most people didn't grow up with a stylist.
You know?
So I think there's a lot of narratives or assumptions around who has a stylist and what a stylist does. So from your perspective, what is a stylist and what do they do?
Yeah, I think I want to start with the stereotype or the trope that stylists are only for celebrities, and they're not. I think that from a stylist is someone who masters the art and science of making someone look and feel great. The art of it is the clothes. How does that and that composition look great, and how does that art itself look good on the client? The science is getting into the client's mind and understanding who they are, how they want to show up, the event itself. What is it for? Who are you catering to? And how can all of that plus the art then make the client look and feel their best self? So I think from that perspective, that's where the personal styling comes in, because you have to get to know that individual personally versus this is just going to be a really cute garment, wear it and move on. And so that is personal styling. And sorry, what was
So, and what would be kind of your role as a stylist?
Yeah. So then my role as a stylist is to really take everything and how you want to show up personally and be able to materialize that in clothes, right? And then also it's making sure that it's tailored appropriately, making sure that, you know, you look and feel great, making sure that we steam everything. Like we are the champions of how you show up. So if anything is wrong when you go out, it's my fault, right? So we are trying to make sure that you look and show up how you need to show up.
So what would you say is kind of like indicators that someone should consider a personal stylist. So because I think, when I think of a personal stylist or some of the narratives around a personal stylist, I see it equivalent to, when we think about getting certain, so back up. I'm at a stage in my business life where I have to drastically reduce the number of decisions I have to make. Like, I just make so many decisions like day to day that I had to, a piece of my own work that I had to do is I had to learn that it was okay to outsource things that 3 to 4 years ago I had the capacity to still manage and do, that now as my business has grown, as just my life has grown, that the answer isn't do more things. It's like I have to rearrange my plate. It's not fitting more things on my plate. And I think we started working together like maybe 2 years ago. And so what for you would you say is kind of the indication that someone needs a personal stylist or should consider a personal stylist?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit one on the head is when you actually don't have the time, when it's time to outsource and you know that you want to show up a certain way and you know that there's somebody who can do it and maybe even do it better than you, and make sure that your brand is consistently showing up as it needs to be. The second is when you just don't know how, maybe you're just not stylistically inclined, and that's okay. You shouldn't beat yourself up for it. And so I think finding somebody who aligns with you and your style and helping them and letting them help you on a journey into finding that personal style for you, that's a good time for you to do it as well. And then also, I think maybe when you have an event and there is just, people know how to style themselves on a day-to-day, maybe. But then when you have an event or a speaking engagement and you need to be polished and level up in a certain way, that's a good moment. And then I think lastly, maybe you are trying to transition in your career. Maybe you are about to get a promotion or you want a promotion and you want to look the part and level up, but you're trying to understand like, how is it best to do that? And with your career and your profession, what's the best route to go to do that so that you can show up and be the part before you get the part. And so that's also like right when you're at the crux of getting a promotion or maybe starting your own business or brand, that's a good time to do it too.
I appreciate the way that you broke that down because I would consider myself as someone who is stylistically inclined. Like, I have style, I got taste, I love to shop. However, and I think that's another misconception is people think, people who just don't have taste or don't have style are the only people who need personal stylists. It's like, no, I actually am clear around my style.
Right.
But to your point of like, I just did not have the time anymore. And like, even to like, I think make this real for people, I host a 3-day annual event every single year. And over the course of those 3 days, I have probably anywhere from, well, you probably know better than I do.
3 wardrobe changes.
But I have like anywhere from 9 to 12 outfits.
Yeah.
So the amount of time that it would take me to find 9 to 12 outfits, and we're not even talking about trying it on, fitting, does it need to be tailored, does it need to be hemmed, and then there's accessories, and then there's shoes, and then there's ordering, do things get here at the same time, and then stuff needs to be steamed. Like, that is actually a whole job within itself. And I think that's a part of the mindset shift that 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures brings, is that, because I think a lot of people, I've seen this mindset show up with even things of just like outsourcing, getting your house clean, where people are like, you should be able to do that yourself. And it's like,
I don't have
time. Like, I don't have time. And so I think I appreciate the way that you broke that down, because it's not just one type of person, that there's a variety of different scenarios. So talk to us around like what that type of relationship with a stylist could look like, because I'm sure there's people who they go automatically to a celebrity type of relationship where it's, you see the Oscars, you see the Grammys, and you think, okay, clearly they had a stylist. And is that something that's a one-time thing? Is it like a ongoing, reoccurring? Is it only for events? So talk to us around what are the different ways that relationship could look.
Yeah, the relationship could look a lot of different ways. And I think I can only speak to my business specifically. I know a lot of other stylists do things very differently. But at my company specifically, there are a few different entryways where clients can work with us. And so that's virtually, which that kind of birthed itself during the pandemic. And so we've been able to do that really well. And virtual requires a little bit more on the client, but you still get that white glove service with us. And so you're able to see the head to toe looks. There's a green lighting process where the client can tell us or have a conversation with us about what you like, what you dislike. And then we then go on to order, or the client orders for themselves. And then we have a virtual fitting. So my team and I, we show up on a FaceTime or a Google Meet, and we talk through the outfits, make sure everything is great. If there's tailoring that needs to be done, we can help you find a tailor in your area. And then as far as like returns, the clients has to do that on their own, versus when we are in person, or there is a event styling or like a wardrobe refresh. We come to you, you don't see anything. We just take all that information in, and we then curate the looks. We get them tailored for you. We do all of the things that, you know, the regular day-to-day is supposed to be as a stylist. And from that perspective, like I said, you can do this from event styling, like a one-off, or you can do it as a wardrobe refresh. And then for our clients who we know we vibe with, we have a retainer-based process. And that's more so for, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot with clients and lock in a retainer with anyone, and they don't like us and we don't, really have a vibe with them. And so we do have retainer options where we have clients like yourself who have speaking engagements, have conferences, are on podcasts, and you're constantly having to show up. And so we want to be able to continue to service you and service you well. And so we have those packages for those clients specifically. But that's pretty much a good range, especially virtual, as well as event, and then wardrobe refreshes are pretty much standard maybe in the personal styling space.
So I heard these 3 different entry points, and I've also highlighting that this is specific to your business. So other people might run their business in different ways, or other stylists. So there's this virtual component that's a little bit more like done with you, where you virtually are advising and providing options, and then people can give feedback. And then once they give the go ahead, you all order and ship. And then it's like Christmas at your doorstep. You get new outfits. And then there's kind of a done for you, but done for you on like an event by event standpoint of like, if you have an upcoming engagement, we'll, pick your outfit. You might even be in person and help them get ready. I think one of the things that I underestimated was steaming.
Oh, it's a lot.
And so and even just the ease that I would get of just like, I'm showing up somewhere, have an event, might have multiple outfit changes and things that have to be steamed.
Everything is ready for you.
And it's just all there.
Accessories, we have it lined up and you're ready to go.
And just ready to go. And then the highest level of engagement would be done for you, but on a retainer level, meaning that you're in a consistent relationship. Correct. So how do you know someone's style? Like, how do you, because even if I hear like the low touch done with you a virtual, someone might be asking, well, how do you know what I like? How would you know what to pick? What would be your answer to that?
So at GG+Co, we actually ask the client specific questions that really help us understand the client, how they want to show up. That's something that we ask them. We ask them where you are right now. How do you feel right now? And so we're taking all those adjectives, how they're describing themselves, and really trying to understand who the client is and how they want to, or how they envision showing up. And then from there, I then decide on, okay, this is the client's vibe. This is who they are. This is how they want to be. And then I take that on to my team and I say, hey, we need outfits to be curated in this manner, this profession. They go out, they curate, or I curate myself. And then we then show those outfits to the client. And pretty much 99% of the time, they're pretty much in the vibe of the client, because we've got into a rhythm of really hearing. And I think that's a good thing that you have to do as a personal stylist, is hearing the client and not actually taking your artistic reins and trying to make someone show up how you want them to show up.
So that makes me think about this question of, because I feel like as someone who is intrigued by fashion, and fun fact, I was a textiles and clothing major in college. And so I'm very much so intrigued by fashion and style and clothing. And I feel like there's some stylists where I feel like they have a distinct style. Absolutely. Where it's like everybody they style, I'm like, all y'all got the same vibe. And then there's some stylists where I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that you styled that person because the vibe is different for each person. And so what, like, would you say that there's a particular strategy one over the other that like a stylist should have as people are like, are trying to find a stylist? Should it be a stylist who has a vibe and I like that vibe? Or should the stylist really be able to kind of flow with who they're styling?
I think that is up to the client. Like, how do you want to show up? Do you want to go into the fold of what this particular stylist is doing as far as you know that person styled them because this is their aesthetic? Do you want to show up in that way? Or do you want to curate your own style and take the stylist's fingerprint off of you and really show up as exactly who you want to be? And I think that's a personal question. How do you want to do it? I think for me, what I found and what I feel like my clients love most is that none of my clients look the same, but they still get the same great service. So no one looks like you. No one looks like Danielle Leslie. No one looks like Bozoma St. John, Valicia, when I worked with her. Everybody has their unique and distinct style.
Mm-hmm. So the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, particularly for our audience of education entrepreneurs, I feel like in education, we have normalized minimizing ourselves in so many different ways. And I think one of the ways in which that shows up is we've minimized the impact of our style. Like, I think about so many times as a principal and even as a teacher where like, I was just in such a grind of like serving my kids and communities that I was just throwing on anything. Yeah. Like, just to like, I just got to get to work. So like, I was just throwing on stuff. Can you talk about if there's someone out there who has this, who might believe that, well, what I wear doesn't really matter as long as I just perform or as long as I can like deliver great results, like what would you say to that?
Well, what I will say is that there's actually scientific research that
let's quote it.
Not the case. So 70% of a first impression is based off of what you are wearing or how you are presenting yourself from the outside. So before I knew that Dr. Erica Jordan Thomas went to Harvard, I saw how she looked and how she presented herself first. And from that impression, I could say, oh my gosh, she's serious. I want to take her serious. She looks great. She looks polished. I'm going to listen to her more because she looks more interesting, or I'm interested to hear what she has to say because how she is presenting herself. And so I would say to whoever is just saying like, me doing the work is all that matters. It actually doesn't, because when you go out and you are presenting yourself to people or you are sharing your concepts and you have to do these things in real life and show up, somebody is actually in their mind picking apart everything that you are before you even open up your mouth to speak. So I think that your pedigree actually has to also align with how you're showing up, and it should be one full pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that, because I think what's important to pull apart for our audience, because particularly for oppressed communities, particularly for Black communities, Black women, I think when we hear certain words about our image and how we need to show up, we overdial because we've had to in society in order to survive. We overdial into like, oh, I need to wear a suit. Like polished looks like being suited and booted, and like, and when I even think of suit, I'm thinking black and navy.
Oh my God.
Like that's what polished looks like. And I think it's really important that we clarify for the audience, like you get to define what polished looks like. Absolutely. Like it is. And I think that's why a stylist is so important, is they can help you identify what polished looks like in a way that reflects your authentic personality. Because as Germanee knows, one of my styling rules that you can't see today is I don't do what?
I mean, you don't do heels.
I don't do heels. Okay. I got a little boot on with a little something today, but I don't do heels. Right. And so even if I'm going to a gala Germanee, can you help me find a sneaker that is nice and dressed up that can go with this nice, cute gala dress? She knows that I don't do heels. And so because of that, and I think that's something that you've helped me navigate of what does it look like to fully lean into my authentic style while also honoring certain parts of my identity. So I think that's really important to clarify for our audience that like how you choose to show up is your choice, but you need to be clear on that, and assessing is how you're showing up intentional. Because so many people are showing up and because there's no intention behind it, you're actually creating your own bottleneck to actually getting more clients because people can't take you seriously. And I've also noticed and seen the trend and pattern that people that I've engaged with who are least confident in their pricing are less intentional around their styling.
You know, they say when you look good, you feel good. And so
you probably are have a lack of confidence about your pricing because you frumpy. No shade.
No shade.
No shade. But we're just trying to be honest because you keep throwing on that t-shirt. You keep throwing on them jeans. And that's why you can't say your price with your chest. It's because you don't feel confident. Right. And I think that's the impact of the way that you dress is I feel more confident saying my price tag when I feel comfortable in my clothes. I feel confident. I feel dressly confident. And I think that's what I want to help disrupt in educators, because we have a profession where we will wear a poodle sweater. We will wear something with pencils and apples on it. And that's why you feel uncomfortable charging $50,000 is because you're wearing the energy of $15 an hour. Right. But is that intentional or not? Right. And you get to choose.
Yeah.
So what would be some advice that you would share with someone who is curious around engaging with a personal stylist, but it's super new to them, so they're trying to navigate it? What would be some advice you would offer?
Ooh, some advice before approaching?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say advice before approaching a personal stylist. And what I always appreciate is when a client understands exactly who they are and how they want to show up. I always find it the most interesting when a client says, whatever you put me in will work, because it won't. Because then if I put you, exactly that. Whatever you put me in will work. But then no, when I get to you and I come with these beautiful garments and you say, no, absolutely not, then you know exactly what you dislike instead of what you like. And so clients or people who have taken the time to understand like what makes them feel confident, have taken the time to analyze how they want to show up, how they want to be perceived, that's who we have the best encounters with, because you have a clear point of view about how you want to show up and who you are as a person and your brand and what you bring to the table and where you're trying to take yourself or position yourself. And so when you have a clear strategy, that's probably the time for you to then engage, but take that personal time first and understand, where is it that I'm not liking and where is it where I want to go, so then I can position myself or work with a stylist to position myself in the right way.
And if people were interested in learning more about you and GG+Co, how could they reach out? What are some things that they could look into?
Yeah, they could go on our website, which is Germanee G at GG+Co.com. That is GERMANEEG.com. And there is a section on the website that says GG+Co, and that details all of our services, levels to engage. And then you can then book a discovery call where we share more in depth about the services and our pricing. So no, it's not on the website, but we do share information about that. And then we'll figure out if you're a good fit for us and if and vice versa. And then we then engage with the client.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to really be able to, I feel like, demystify like a stylist, because I feel like this is a part of that hidden curriculum to like elevation, to growing a 7, 8, 9 figure business, is they are reducing the number of decisions that they have to make. And the majority of them are not deciding what to wear. Like someone else is deciding that for them. But they have an opinion about it. And I think this conversation really, I think, broke that down. So thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for also styling me, making sure that I show up in the way in which I want to. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. And thanks for being my client.
Yes, girl.